it's not even about the financial gain. Sure, maybe it'll 10x, maybe it'll 100x, maybe it'll 2x. I don't really care. It's about the freedom.
Hello there from Bedford in the United Kingdom, the Bitcoin mecca of the world. How are you all? Welcome to the What Bitcoin Did podcast, which is brought to you by the mighty Kraken, the best place to buy, sell and trade Bitcoin. I'm your host, Peter McCormack, and today I've got an interview with Kevin Lehtiniitty from Prime Trust, where we're going to be discussing Fintech and Bitcoin. But before that, I do have a message from my amazing show sponsors. So first up today, we're going to talk about BlockFi, who have a very special Halloween offer. With Halloween being my birthday and being tomorrow, you definitely want to check this out. Now, BlockFi are the future of Bitcoin and financial services, and with them, you can open up an interest account like I did, and you can start earning interest on your Bitcoin. I've been a customer for coming up to a year now, and I've earned about 1 Bitcoin in interest, which is very, very cool. Also, using your Bitcoin as collateral, you can take out a USD loan, and you can also fund your BlockFi account directly from your Bitcoin wallet. And with the BlockFi mobile app, you can also now fully manage your account on the go. And as I said, they have a big Halloween promotion for new customers. Halloween being tomorrow and being my birthday, I obviously support this. So from now until the end of the month, so essentially until the end of tomorrow, you can earn up to $275 in Bitcoin when you open up a BlockFi account. If you are interested in checking out BlockFi, I do recommend you do your own research and then head over to blockfi.com, which is blockfi.com/Peter. Next up, we're going to talk about Kraken, my favorite place for buying and selling Bitcoin, and the only place I use for buying and selling Bitcoin. So why is this? Well, outside of them being a sponsor, they are consistently rated the best and most secure cryptocurrency exchange, and security is really important to me. They also have the best in class in customer service. So if you've got any issue, whatever it is, whoever you are and wherever you are, they're going to get that shit sorted for you. And if you want to start trading Bitcoin, they have every tool you could possibly need. Whatever your level of experience, if you head over to kraken.com, it could not be easier to sign up and start trading Bitcoin. They've also got this amazing mobile first app. So if you're on the go, if you're on a train, if you're on a plane, you're sat in the passenger in a car and you're thinking, you know what, I need me some more Bitcoin, you can whip out the Kraken mobile app and start buying some more. And with their margin trading, futures, and OTC desk, Kraken has got every option covered for you. There is no better place to trade Bitcoin, and you can find out more at kraken.com, or you can download the app. It's available in the iPhone and Android app stores. Just search for Kraken Pro, which is KrakenPro. Okay, so on to the show today, and I am joined by Kevin Lehtiniitty. He is the Chief Product Officer at Prime Trust, and a company that services the Fintech industry. Now, I wanted to get Kevin on the show to talk me through what's happening in the Fintech industry, because I'm seeing loads of things happen in the space. We just had the announcement that PayPal is going to be supporting Bitcoin. Kraken has become a bank. And also we've got Cash App and Revolut allowing you to buy Bitcoin. Well, with Revolut's case, it's exposure to Bitcoin. And it seems like PayPal's will be similar, but the fintech companies are increasingly supporting Bitcoin. So I wanted to get Kevin in to talk about this, tell me how it all works, what exposing millions of people who use these apps to Bitcoin actually means, and what the regulatory environment is like for these companies. Now, what I didn't expect to hear is how bad some of the traditional banking infrastructure really is, especially in America. I mean, compared to what we have in the UK, it's quite weird how kind of just fucked some of it is. So yeah, that was a real surprise to me, but it was really interesting to get into this with Kevin and also talk a little bit again about libertarianism. I always like discussing this, especially with the staunch libertarians out there. So I hope you enjoy this. If you've got any questions, you can reach out to me. My email address is hello@whatbitcoindid.com. I do reply to everyone, and I do it myself. I don't have a bot or someone sat out in the Philippines doing it. I do it myself. So if you want to reach out to me, please do that. Outside of that, have you checked out my new show, Defiance? Okay, I'll tell you something interesting. This month is the first month that Defiance has actually outperformed what Bitcoin did. Now, look, there's a couple of caveats there. Its total numbers are lower, but its average numbers are higher. Basically, we do less shows on Defiance, but the average per show is tracked much higher. And a lot of those have come on YouTube, but still, the Defiance show about Ghislaine Maxwell has done really well. So the final part of that is out next week. And also next week, we are launching my new series it was kind of about Donald Trump, but really it's about something else. It's called Chaos. The trailer is available on Defiance if you want to go and check that out. That's all available at defiance.news. Anyway, it's my birthday tomorrow. I don't drink anymore, so I don't know what I'm going to do to celebrate. I'll probably go eat some chocolate with the kids, grab some pizza. But I hope you have a great weekend. I hope you have a great Halloween, and I will see you all next week. Kevin, how are you, man?
Hey, Peter, I'm doing great. How are you?
Yes, I am doing well. It's late here because it's evening for me. About lunchtime for you, right?
About lunchtime. Yeah, exactly.
Nice, nice. How are things over in California right now? Because very weird world right now.
It is a weird world. For us here in the U.S., a lot of it is really state by state. I don't think there's a lot of unified federal legislation. So in kind of California specifically, things are pretty locked down. We have an office in Nevada. Things are a little bit more open there, but it's month by month it changes quite a bit.
Right. Whereabouts in California are you? Can you say? Do you have to be secret?
Oh no, we're a pretty distributed team. So
Okay.
Prime Trust is a Nevada state chartered financial institution. So all of Prime Trust's employees are in the state of Nevada. But then we have a technology company as well, which houses our engineering and technical teams. And we've got folks in the Bay Area, folks in other places.
Is it still pretty locked down in California?
California is, yeah. They're allowing some outdoor dining now and things like that in the Bay Area, which is nice. Helps with the claustrophobia a little bit,
man.
but still pretty locked down.
What about the kids? Are the kids back at school?
And kids, I know a little bit more in our Nevada office. That's where I'm sitting right now. Kids here are doing a part-time program for the public schools. So the private schools are all back in school, and the public schools are doing a 2 days a week kind of a thing, I guess, to keep the class sizes down and let people distance.
Right. What's it like in Nevada? Like, is Vegas? Because I just keep thinking about Vegas, right? Like, Vegas must be suffering.
It is. It is. We're out in Summerlin, Nevada, but we're close enough to Vegas to kind of keep a pulse on what's going on. And a lot of the hotels have started reopening. There's actually a large flood of tourism, almost all from LA. Everyone's driving in because California is so locked down. So it got
need a
pretty
fucking
painful.
break.
Yeah, exactly.
Give me some gambling, some strippers. I need a break. Let me get out of this shit.
Yep.
Yeah, we're just going back into lockdowns here. They've come up with this new tiered system. It's like a 3-tier system. They're grading different areas. I think tier 3 is like total lockdown.
Okay.
Tier 2 is like you're not allowed to mix in other households. They're trying not to lock down the whole country, but there are kind of rumors they're thinking of doing this like circuit breaker thing where they lock everyone down for 4 weeks and try and close it down. Because we have this big issue that we have this, like, I don't know if it's the same in the US. We have a big winter flu problem, like a massive winter flu problem.
We do,
and the
yeah.
hospitals, okay. Well, the hospitals always fill up. They're always at capacity. And what they're worried about is that they're going to have a capacity issue both with a mix of flu and coronavirus. But it's a really tricky situation because I get it. I get what all the people shouting about freedom are saying is like, you can't allow these businesses to keep closing, and people got to earn money, but at the same time they're worried about the NHS. And I see both sides of the argument. I can never see like a clear answer to it, but I know you're like libertarian minded. We spoke about this. Like, how do you feel about it all?
The world's definitely gone to shit, Peter. That's
That's
been a long time coming, though. That's definitely been pre-COVID. The world's already gone to shit a long time ago. I'm big on personal choice, personal liberties, things of that nature. But COVID is actually a difficult issue for me because of how impactful it is to other people, right? So I think you can take the position that's, look, it's even like the mask, drama and things like that of, look, I don't want to wear a mask. That's my choice. I don't want to do it. But on the other hand, if you then go and infect 5 people who die, fuck you. Like, that's not good either. So I'm really torn on this one personally. I don't really have a good answer for you.
No, I don't think you're the only one. I did an interview with Scott. Was it Scott Horton? And even he, I think, was feeling challenged by it. And he's a libertarian, and he's all about maximum freedom and liberty, and even he was, I think, was finding it challenging because in terms of nap, it's like, well, you can be aggressive by breathing without realizing it. You can cause problems, and I know a lot of people have really been challenged with it, but at the same time don't want to then turn around and say, well, I think we should have lockdowns. And I guess that's where you are as well, right?
Yeah, well, you can't let the economy go to shit, right? If like, no matter what the pandemic is, if you come out of this and you say, great, well, nobody's sick, but by the way, we have 90% unemployment across the country, that's going to impact people's health and livelihood just as much as a viral or, medical infection. So I think finding that point where, what can we do that's reasonable? Great. So open restaurants, but put the table 6 feet apart. Okay. That is something that I'm in favor of, right? We can be a little bit preventative while still allowing the world to keep moving forward. I travel a decent amount. I know that's taboo now. I've traveled internationally a couple times. I'm heading to Ukraine in a couple weeks. There's a lot of stress around international travel right now, but I don't want to live my life in a bubble, in my home 24/7 in some sort of crazy hazmat suit and just waiting for the world to end isn't a lot of fun. So we gotta build the business, and so does everybody else, right? You have to keep moving. This is the new normal now for however long it takes.
Yeah, what is that international travel like? Because I used to travel so much. Last year I did like 92 flights. Every month I was away, like flight after flight. I just got used to it. I haven't flown since March. Last time I got on a plane, I was out in Istanbul. I came back through Heathrow. I kind of thought I had COVID because I was so sick, like the sickest I've ever been. And like, I just can't even remember. My son was as well. My bones ached. And I haven't flown since. I want to. Like, I'd like a holiday. I'd like to get out and do some shit. But like, my first place would always be to the US. But we can't travel to the US at the moment. The US won't let us in.
The hardest part is trying to figure out where you can go, right? So Americans, same way, we're not welcome most places, right? We can't really enter the EU. There's a lot of places where we can't. Thankfully, for us in particular, Ukraine, while a European country, is not an EU member country. So they're allowing some more tourism and some folks to fly in. But, it's strange. I was flying, the other day coming back, and you're used to a certain level of I guess, luxury or amenities when you're traveling on, a transcontinental, business class flight. You're used to getting a little meal, some food, things like that. And the flight attendant walks by wearing, this big mask and face shield and all that stuff, and just drops this little wrapped up sandwich on my tray table. And it's like, oh, great, I guess that's lunch. Gone are the days of the cocktails and the drinks, and they're trying to really minimize the contact. And you get from point A to point B, but there's not much in the way of amenities when you're doing that at the airports or on the planes or anything else.
Really? Is it? I mean, what's the plane like? Is it full, half full?
Flight over, probably about half full. So at least here in the U.S., they did a thing for a while where domestically they wouldn't allow anybody to sit in the middle seat. So you had the aisle seat, the window seat, and you had a little bit of space. They stopped that policy a few months ago, and now they're cramming the planes full again. But on the international flight, it was about half full.
Honestly,
or half empty, depending on how you look at it.
I don't know how these airlines are going to survive because they were on razor-thin margins before.
Yeah,
I just don't know how.
There's no way.
I mean, I look at something like British Airways, right? They're just... they've got some flights going, but they're closing down a lot of the destinations again. I think they're only going to be able to survive with these big bailouts, but it kind of... all this stuff brings me back to the Bitcoin. Actually, let's go back full circle. Give me your Bitcoin story, Kevin, and then we'll talk about it.
It's my Bitcoin story, I think, is a little different than most people's, probably because I imagine I was later to the party than most people you interview. For me, it really started around 2014 or so. That was my first time trying to buy Bitcoin, and I want to say that it was also probably one of the most formative of experiences of my life, given where I've decided to kind of dedicate the rest of my career after that particular moment. But I was on Coinbase, user friendly. That was 2014. That was the easiest place to get something if you're new to it like me. And I remember trying to make a bank transfer to Coinbase, and my bank saying no. And it was like, no, you can't transfer money to Coinbase. And I had this, really strange frustration, almost a light bulb moment going, who the fuck are you to tell me what I can do with my money? That doesn't make any sense. This is my money. Why are you kind of what we're now calling financial censorship, right? Why are you censoring the transactions that I can make with my own money that I've earned? It was crazy. And that was one of those, the system is really, really broken moments. And it was kind of what set us down on the path of everything that I've at least personally done since then, whether it's been Prime Trust or Banq or some other things. That was kind of, look, I want to go work in fintech. I want to go work with crypto. I want to work with more decentralized things. I want to better flush out what do I think financial censorship is, and what can I do to kind of, pick up arms and join the fight against that, and do it both from the regulated and non-regulated sides, where maybe we can get back to infrastructure, where it's about enablement and not about censorship.
But were you drawn to Bitcoin because you were libertarian minded already, or was it the other way around?
Honestly, I think that Bitcoin has probably drawn out a lot more libertarian in me than anything else. So I was certainly headed down that path at that time. But I always had somebody tell me that there's the two things that people care about are their physical health and their financial health, right? Other than those two things, no one cares. So I was already kind of heading down the path, but not really into it. And when I had that experience right there, where you're fucking with what I can do with what I'm, slaving away all day in the office to earn, that was just like none other for me. And that was kind of, fuck this shit, I'm going to fix this, or at least do my part to do what I can to fix some of this stuff. And since then, I hold a lot more Bitcoin than I normally do. Hold a lot more than Fidelity's 5% recommendation, that's for sure. I think it's a big part of the solution, honestly.
Yeah, it's one of those ones, if you're right, you're going to be really right, but if you're wrong, it's like, shit moment. But it's kind of ironic.
The gain. It's not even about the financial gain. Like, sure, maybe it'll 10x, maybe it'll 100x, maybe it'll 2x. I don't really care. It's about the freedom, right? As a libertarian, for me, it's about not, while you can kind of trace things back on chain of what went where, that's fine. But it's about not having that party that can sit there and go, no, you know what? Take adult, for example. Adult is often, at least in the US, like very aggressively controlled. It's like, okay, You have this thing that's completely federally legal, but you have these puritanical standards from the financial institutions who are looking at it and saying, no, we think pornography is evil. Look at Square, look at anybody else's kind of terms of use, restricted business activities, adults in every single one of them. Right. For me, Bitcoin's less about the financial gain and more about, if I want to buy some porn, I'm going to buy some porn. Who the fuck are you to tell me no?
Yeah, but the more important question, I'll be like, why are you buying porn, dude? It's pretty much free everywhere. There's a lot of free porn out there. Like, what the fuck are you paying for? No, but like, I'm with you, man. Listen, I don't know if you know, but I've interviewed a few porn stars in the industry. I interviewed a lady called Ali Eve Knox. I interviewed Stoya, and also Holly Randall I've interviewed a couple of times. And they talk about it, and it's a fully legal industry.
Yeah.
But the moral code of the banks, and even some exchanges are like, we're not going to do business with you. And they're probably the same people who are at home jerking off watching these films.
They're the ones making the decision.
Yeah, making the decision. And I just... It's kind of like, I always feel sorry for the porn industry sometimes, because it's probably has like more time watched than like Hollywood. But the treatment of the actresses and the more so the actresses in the industry is really fucking terrible. But fundamentally, actually, they're just making their lives more dangerous.
Yeah.
It's like if you ban it, if prohibition in the... Do you call it prohibition if it's also... sex industry? I guess you do, and prohibition just makes it more dangerous. All these laws make it more dangerous.
Yeah.
But it's kind of ironic, right, that you're like a Bitcoin awakening was being censored from buying censorship-resistant money.
Yes. There's something definitely interesting to that interaction.
Did you finally get through and buy some then?
I did. I finally got through. I interestingly ended up changing banks. After I tried to do that transaction, not only was it blocked, the bank decided they didn't want to do business with me anymore, which was great. Like 30-day notice. Your accounts are being closed.
They closed your account just because you wanted to put money in Coinbase.
Yeah, exactly.
Motherfucker.
And this is, at least here, this happens to a lot of folks. It's not just me. And what they'll do, and this was less so now because it's a little bit more accepted, but definitely in 2014 to 2017, 2018, if you were running some sort of crypto-related business, they would shut down your business account, they would shut down your personal account, they would shut down any personal accounts of any of your employees. It was like this kind of massive purge of this banking system saying, no, we're not going to accept crypto. We're not going to accept censorship-resistant money. It was like, you're going to be on the wrong side of this one in the history books.
Dude, especially now, like Kraken's becoming a bank.
Yep.
You're looking at this and you start to wonder, like, you start to think, because I did it with Kraken, I started to think, like, where is this in 10 years? What kind of banking services do I have? Probably not a branch. And I can certainly see a scenario where I would like to move between Bitcoin and cash a lot easier in the accounts, especially if I had a business account, because, some people pay me in Bitcoin, some people pay me in pounds, some people pay me in dollars. The ability to own or hold an account which allows you to move between those, but also, like, I know I can do that with like a combination of other services, but also be able to like pay bills. That's something I want. And yes, there's like a custody issue there, but like it is something I want. But I feel like these issues, like we have them in the UK. I feel like the US is worse.
The US is definitely worse. There's a lot of broken infrastructure. So part of what we're always challenged by is just the way that our kind of fiat transfers work here in the US. Everything's very archaic. You have this wire window. It doesn't operate during banking holidays, things like that. And that just doesn't work anymore, right? We live in 24/7 global markets. So what we're seeing come out, and Signature Bank has one of these, Silvergate Bank does, we do as well here as Prime, is kind of just this concept of internal transfers. And those are great, but they're closed ecosystems. What we really want to do is foster more of an open ecosystem for transfers. That's a whole shit show in and of itself in the US. Ben, one thing that has been positive, though, is the OCC's come out recently here with a couple announcements. And they've said that banks can hold crypto, which is great because that's encouraging more adoption, right? Anything that's encouraging more adoption, making it more retail, user-friendly, I'm all about those things. And one of the challenges, though, that people don't anticipate is there's great tech platforms out there, right? Whether you're on whatever side you're on of MPC, multi-sig, you've got Fireblocks, you've got Curve, you've got Ledger, you've got a lot of these kind of institutional software platforms that these banks can leverage. But the thing that no one thinks about is that they're all running on core accounting systems. And those are all old legacy core accounting systems from like FIS, Fiserv, Jack Henry, those sorts of folks. And what screws all this up is actually the precision of crypto. Right. The 8 decimal points of precision on Bitcoin, the 18 decimal points of precision on Ethereum-based tokens for most. That's really hard because the accounting systems the banks are using can't actually express that full precision. They can't statement it, they can't report on it, things of that nature. So what you end up with is a ridiculous amount of drift that just builds up slowly over time. And this causes massive operational nightmares. So while you have the technology platforms from the Curve, Fireblocks, Ledger, and you have the regulatory framework now, you still can't actually do this business. And the question that we get quite a lot is, well, then how does Prime Trust do this? Don't you have the same issues? And I think the best decision that we've ever made is we built our own accounting system 2 years ago. We built our own core system. So we don't run off of any of these legacy players. And it's all about, we call it the universal asset platform. We call it PrimeCore. And what we do is we built it in-house, and it supports whatever we want. Real estate, securities, public or private, which as a libertarian, private securities are much more interesting for me than publicly traded ones. Crypto, whether it's Bitcoin or Ethereum or whatever asset people want. In the line of financial censorship, I don't think that I should get to decide what asset someone holds. I don't care if you want to buy Bitcoin. I don't want to care if you want to buy Ethereum. I don't want to decide for you what's good for you, right? I want to have this platform that can support whatever you decide that you want to buy and be an enabler, not censor.
Right, so tell me about Prime Trust, because I don't know a lot about, I only discovered you recently, obviously.
Yeah.
We're not going to get into that. But tell me a little bit, or really better off, anyone who's listening, tell people what Prime Trust does.
Sure. So we started the company off in crowdfunding, interestingly. So there's a lot of companies here in the US that want to raise capital. When equity crowdfunding was a thing, we figured that's a really interesting way to kind of democratize capital formation instead of it being locked up in accredited high net worth individuals, venture funds, things like that. Let's bring that to the people. Let's kind of decentralize some of that funding. And it eventually evolved into what's now Prime Trust, which is a Nevada state charter trust company. We are a financial institution here in the US. And what we view ourselves at, or what we try to build, is financial infrastructure. So our core product is API based. It does payments, it does custody, it does liquidity. It does custody of multiple currencies. You can go between them. It does custody of crypto, real estate, all these different assets. And it's all this infrastructure layer that's designed for other people to build their applications on top of. So especially for US-based exchanges, if you're sending a wire or an ACH payment or something like that to Bittrex, to OKCoin, to Binance US, to TrueUSD, you're actually using Prime Trust. You just don't know it.
Right.
And that's how we like it. We're not consumer people at all whatsoever. Twitter will tell you that much. So we like to stay behind this, kind of behind the scenes, out of the limelight, and just build stuff that enables people. Zap has gotten some good traction lately as for their stuff on Lightning. Zap
Jack
on
Mallers,
their fiat
right?
rail. Yeah. Jack on the fiat rail, Zap uses Prime Trust. So that's good examples of how we enable other people to build businesses. We like to call ourselves the AWS of fintech companies, but that's a little ambitious, but maybe we'll get there one day.
So what are the challenges that you face then as a business?
There's a lot of them. What we constantly find ourselves stuck between is the legacy infrastructure that we can leverage, right? So there's nothing that we can do about the wire window in the US, for example. We can't go petition the Fed and say we need to extend these wires. We could, but nothing's going to happen, right?
What is that window? Is that like business hours?
Basically, it's business hours. It's only during weekdays. So if it's a weekend, if it's in the evening, you can't send a wire in the US. You have to wait until the next business day to send it. And that doesn't work.
Why? They need someone to like turn the handle on.
It's archaic, right? It's the reason why is because that's how it's always been. And that's personally my least favorite answer to any question. Whenever somebody looks at something and goes, well, we do this because that's how we always do it. It's like, okay, great. Remind me to go fucking fix that when I have some free time. So we're constantly kind of pinned between this archaic banking system that we have to use and the demands of our customers. And what we try to do is basically abstract a lot of that stuff away and say, hey, if you want to operate Bitcoin, great. We can do that. If you want to do these different payments methods, you can do that. We have 12 or 15 different banks now on the back end. We have dozens of different processors for all these different payment rails. And I can tell you that is a pain to build and maintain, especially when you have people coming in and somebody wakes up on the wrong side of the bed and says, you know what, we don't like Bitcoin anymore. Goodbye, you're shut off. And it's like, okay, great. You need to have redundancy. You need to be able to cut over, things of that nature. A lot of what we do, a lot of the hard part is trying to black box and abstract that. So people can use Prime Trust without having to worry about all those downstream things. And it's great, but that means that we worry about those things. So that's definitely the big challenges. And then you always have regulatory, right? We're operating.
Dude, you have I'm not on your website. You have a compliance section.
Yes. Yeah, we actually do a lot of compliance, risk management, things like that. Our kind of head of regulatory affairs, you mentioned Kraken, is the former deputy banking commissioner in Wyoming. So very crypto friendly, understands a lot of that legislation really well. Our CCO is the former CCO at Green Dot. They do the prepaid card programs for Walmart, Apple Pay, kind of all that stuff. So we've tried to put together a really good team because honestly, these problems aren't easy. They are hard. And we want to take that hardship on. I'm personally a big believer that you can never reduce the total complexity of a problem, but what you can do is you can shift the burden of that complexity. So that's what our entire business is predicated off of. This is a hard problem. You can't make it easier. So we'll take on as much of the hard things as we can.
But did you start out doing crypto, or were you doing like traditional payments before this?
Traditional payments first. So It's funny because that scenario that I went through with the crypto and the banks not liking that transaction was the exact same way that equity crowdfunding started. And now no one cares. It's the most vanilla business in the world. So we've always been in what they call high-risk payments, which makes absolutely no sense. It's not a high-risk payment. It's crypto. It's things like private securities. And now the more we get into it, it's great. Well, what else is being censored? It's adults. Okay, how can we tackle some of that stuff? Maybe we want to do some stuff around cannabis where it's legal. Like there's a lot of things that are still being censored, and we're just trying to tackle them one after the other.
Next up, I talked to Kevin more about fintech and Bitcoin, but before that, I do have a message from my amazing sponsors. So, Least Authority, they've been back as a sponsor of the show. This is their last ad read of this booking, so let's give them a final boost. Please do go and check out Least Authority. It's been a great help with them sponsoring the show. Now, it is for you techies out there, those of you who are building the applications. Now, Least Authority is a security consulting company, and they are pushing the limits on how to build privacy-respecting solutions. They specialize in security audits, design specification reviews, and security by design. They can also help you improve the security of your wallet application, key management solution, layer 2 protocol, P2P network design, use of cryptography, and so much more. Now, would you like a boost to your security strategy? Well, with Least Authority, you can arrange a no obligation call to find out how they can help you on your next project. Just head over to their website, hit the schedule a call button, and that's at leastauthority.com, which is leastauthority.com. Also, let's talk about Casa. Now, interesting thing with Casa, lots of you started reaching out to me, asking me about Casa, which shows the ads are working, which is great. I'm happy to talk about this. You can reach out to me on Telegram or Twitter. I am a massive fan of the company. I became a customer before they became a sponsor, and it has given me so much peace of mind. I feel so much happier now that I'm protected from hackers, personal mistakes, in-person attacks, device failures, and anything else that can go wrong. Now, with Bull Run looking likely, look, the price is doing well. Some of you, your Bitcoin might seem like a small amount. That's going to be worth a lot potentially in the future. So security is definitely something you want to be on top of. I wasn't for a long time, so I'm glad I am now. And listen, Casa, they're such badasses. They've got a product for every Bitcoiner. With Casa Gold, you get triple the security of your hardware wallet, and that's only going to cost you $10 a month. With Casa Platinum, you get their 3 or 5 multi-sig. Now, that's the best protection for large Bitcoin holders, and that comes at a really great price. And with Casa Diamond, you get their full service offering. That includes a customized personal security review, inheritance planning, and of course, their best-in-class security. There is no better time to upgrade your Bitcoin security and get total peace of mind. You can find out more at keys.casa, which is keys.casa. And last today, but no sponsor is ever least, we've got sportsbet.io. They are the best place for online gaming, and if you've enjoyed the return of football, some crazy results, right? I have. It's great to see Liverpool back. It's great to see them near the top of the table. I expect they'll be at the very top very soon. But also, we've had the return of the Champions League and the Europa League, and you know what? Another great start for Liverpool there. But with Sportsbet, they have welcomed back these 2 European competitions with a special offer for you football lovers. They are offering a number of missions whereby if you hit a streak during the competition, you can win up to 1 Bitcoin in cash prizes. Just head over to sportsbet.io/promotions to opt in and view the terms of the promotions. And you can access sportsbet.io at sportsbet.io. So let's talk about the weed one, because, and ironically, because that's Jack Muller's mum's business. They're involved in the weed business, right? And I was with them out in Colorado, and they were saying, look, the big issue is that it's state by state legislation.
Yep.
But still illegal federally.
It is.
So getting banking services is a difficulty. So why is it that banks are saying no, but say someone like you can help out?
So everything is always a risk-based decision, and I want to make it clear that we're looking at cannabis. For any regulators that happen to listen to your show, we'll say that Prime Trust is looking at cannabis. But really, what it is for us is, while many state-chartered financial institutions like us operate in states where it's legal statewide, a lot of banks are federally chartered, and banks that aren't federally chartered still have to rely on the Federal Reserve and kind of other more federal agencies, and it's not okay there. So what I expect that we'll see is kind of something similar to what we saw with crypto, where the early banks that were in crypto were the banks that were going out of business. It was these little places, they're already going out of business. You know what? They're going to roll the dice. They're going to start banking crypto. And worst case scenario, they get shut down. Well, great, they were going out of business anyway. I expect to see the same thing in cannabis, where we're going to have banks that are going out of business, and they say, you know what? Our Hail Mary is we're going to bank cannabis. And just like crypto, those banks are going to be massively rewarded for that if they can survive it.
That federal versus state level legislation issue, it's really kind of complicated. And for someone like myself to understand, it's just complex because we don't have this in the UK, right? We have a set of laws, and it's the UK. And look, we have devolved governments in Northern Ireland, Scotland, right? But this is a different scenario. But these different state-by-state laws, you kind of look at it and you go, no, I understand, and it kind of makes sense, right? But when you have these federal laws which contradict them, that kind of makes things a little bit difficult for people on the ground. Where does it, you'll know even the best language for asking this question, but where does it stand kind of like legally or constitutionally that if someone was to offer banking services, say, to a cannabis company, where would they be at risk federally?
The states' rights issue in general is one of the long contested political issues in the U.S., for sure.
Right.
And I think that most people haven't really understood it very well. But a lot of what's happening now in the cannabis space is bringing this to light for more everyday people, right? And bringing kind of states' rights as an issue to the attention of the broader population. And really, a lot of it's about enforceability, right? So you kind of have these two different layers. And depending on which layer you operate in, if that layer says it's okay and you operate exclusively in that layer, then you're fine. If you operate in multiple layers, then you're not okay if one of your layers says that it's not okay. And for banks, there's this really weird hybrid of state and federal regulation, where even if you're just a state chartered bank, so you could be a bank chartered in the state of Nevada, cannabis is fully recreationally and medicinally legal in the state of Nevada. So there is nothing that any Nevada regulator or person would do to say, hey, you can't do this. But as a bank, you're automatically regulated by the OCC, right? You have some sort of a connection to the Federal Reserve, and these are all federal level layers, and they might come down on you. So I think what the industry as a whole was trying to figure out is, hey, if my kind of primary regulatory body says it's okay, am I going to get crushed from this kind of ethereal federal layer, or are they going to keep their nose out of it? And unfortunately, that's a highly political issue. And come a few months from now, that answer might change, right? Like, it's really nebulous right now with the elections coming and everything else. It's one candidate's stance on it over the other might massively impact whether it's kind of left alone federally or if it's, intentionally really prosecuted.
Right, that's interesting. And could there be a scenario where the federal layer brings charges against you, but you are defended at a state level, that the state governor? Like, again, I might be using all the wrong kind of language because I'm not.
Honestly,
but do you have those scenarios?
I'm not an expert on kind of the state versus federal stuff, but from the little that I do know, I could see that being a scenario, right? This might be something, especially if you have states like Colorado and some others that derive massive, massive tax revenue from the cannabis industry. If you end up with a precedent of the federal government coming in and saying, no, we're going to punish and shut this down for just one bank, right? Even if it's one of many, that sets a really dangerous precedent in a state that derives a ton of taxpayer income from that particular activity. And I could see that state fighting back, not just the bank having to fight back, but the state taking on their shoulders and saying, get out of here. This is a big part of our tax base. Yeah,
well, to be honest, so many states now have either legalized or decriminalized it. I mean, how many, what is it, like 30 odd now?
I think, my personal opinion is that federal legalization is inevitable. Right. Yeah. I think the momentum that it's carrying, all the states that have decriminalized, legalizing it, I think it's just a matter of time. And perhaps that's what makes it the most frustrating, is that everybody knows the end outcome. We're just not there yet. So it's still a massive pain to operate in the space, even though we all know where it's going.
Could it be legalized federally, but outlawed at a state level?
It could.
It could. Okay. But that's a better way round of having it, right?
That's a much better way. That would make it a lot easier to operate, at least.
But I can't see. Look, I mean, I've been out to Colorado. I've been out to Bitcoin Mom's shop. I've hung out. I understand a little bit more about the business. There's massive tax revenues for each state.
Yep.
And the world has not collapsed.
No.
We've got a few more people maybe going home with some better quality weed, getting toasted, watching Netflix and eating pizza. Like, I don't see a single downside to this. Perhaps there'll be some studies that there was an increase in some kind of mental health issues, maybe, but I don't really see a downside to it.
No, alcohol is fully legal, right? And that's not the safest thing in the world, so to speak, especially compared to something like cannabis. I would argue that cannabis is probably safer than alcohol in many ways, right? And, you saw kind of what happened in the U.S. with prohibition, where it just turned into a lot of underground speakeasies, and then the government kind of looked at the tax revenues and realized that,
Hey.
that kind of hurts. And they brought up, at the end of the day, people always do what's in their best economic interest, right? It's always all about the money. And maybe it's a little jaded, but at least working in kind of the industry where I work, it's always all about the money. That's the only thing that ever matters. And there's so much money in cannabis that I don't think there's any other option but to fully legalize.
Then it's like, what's next? Is it mushrooms? Is it something else?
I have
Do you
no
look
idea.
at? Are there other? So you looked at adult, you looked at cannabis. Are there other like kind of grey markets here that are of interest to you guys?
Adults in cannabis are definitely two. So we have a client here at Prime Trust called Banq, Banq. They flipped a letter. And they're really looking at adults. They're really looking at cannabis payments as, basically where is cash and how to replace cash. And I think that's a really interesting business. And that's one that, we're watching pretty closely.
So what they do, like the front end business side, and you just do what the processing of the payments for them?
Basically, right. So same, type of an arrangement as we have with Jack Mahler's and Zap and some of that stuff building on top of Prime Trust. For Banq in particular, when you as a user go and you sign up download the app, you go and you sign up, what that actually does is that opens an account at Prime Trust in your name. Just all happens under the hood. And then when you make a deposit into your account at Banq, well, you can guess what happens. You're making a deposit into your account at Prime Trust. So it's basically like a white labeled banking, if you want to think about it in that way. And they're going to do a lot with crypto payments. I feel like I can talk about their roadmap a little bit, so I will.
Yeah.
They're going to do a lot with, paying in crypto, using crypto to do some of these more private payments. Their big thing is privacy by design. You get on Venmo, why on earth is there a social feed of what I'm spending my money on? I've personally never understood that.
I heard that shit. Like, what the fuck?
Exactly. So Banq's all about privacy. They're leaning really heavy into crypto. And they're looking at all sorts of industries, right? Just from the coffee shop down the road, but also more what's cash heavy. So it's adult, it's cannabis. Interestingly, real estate is really fucked up. If you want to talk about a fucked up industry in payments. Real estate's a shit show. Oh, yeah.
Oh, is it that thing where it's like so many people have to get paid like at a certain time? Did I hear about this right? I think it's different in the US to the UK.
It's a little bit different in the US. A lot of it is for some reason, like when I bought my house here, all my mortgage payments paid by check. There was no pay online. I had to write a check. I had to mail it in, and I'm sitting there going, and at the age of PayPal's a dinosaur, but I guess they're definitely getting into crypto too, right? They had a big announcement with Paxos.
Yeah.
I think I'm anticipating a lot of M&A activity in crypto coming up, and PayPal's one of the huge giants, so I imagine they're going to do something interesting. But in the age of the PayPals and Venmo and Cash App and Stripe and everything else, why am I ever taking a check and going to the mailbox? That just doesn't make any sense. And
you're still having to do that.
Yeah, I pay mortgage and HOA fees by taking a check down to the fucking mailbox.
Yeah, but that means that, you have to remember each month.
Yeah. I probably pay more in late fees than I do in the fucking HOA payments because I can't remember to save my life. I'm traveling. I'm doing other stuff. It's so fucked up.
Or what if a check gets lost? Like, does it affect your credit rating? Because, like, here in the UK, right? I mean, I don't know I don't know anyone still uses checks or anything, let alone using a check to pay their mortgage at the end of the month or pay their rent. But like, if you miss a mortgage payment, it can fuck with your credit rating.
Yep, same here. Definitely same here. What you end up with, and it's less mortgages and typically more rents where we see the issue, is there's this kind of whole middle market that's been missed. Where if you're living in a large apartment property or a large high-rise, something like that, I'm sure you can pay your rent online. Like, that's fine. They're taking cards. They're doing whatever else. But if your landlord owns one or two houses as investment properties, they own 3-4 apartments, are they putting in basically like a POS system to collect rent from? Fuck no, they're not. They're just mail me a check, right? Because there's not really a lot of consumer-friendly ways to do that, and that's something we can help with too. So just kind of outside of the high-risk space, like there's still other problems to solve.
Yeah, but dude, like here, if I got a landlord, I can just set up a direct debit to him or a standing order or something. So like every month it just pays him.
I don't think you understand how fucked up the financial infrastructure is here. Like seriously, it's really, really painful.
Yeah, but like I don't understand. Like why? You're given the good answer for why people need Bitcoin, but I don't understand why that exists. Like, can you go? So say I'm out in the US. Say I live in Nevada, right? And I'm renting a room off you, and I just want to set up. Go on my online banking, just set up a direct debit to you. Say I'm with Chase. You're with Chase. Can I do that?
From within the same bank, definitely. So those are those closed loops, and those are mainly solved. And we can do it on payment apps too, right? We could do it on PayPal. We could do it on Square. We could do it on a few different places. But in terms of more of an open ecosystem, there really isn't. Most kind of retail banking products don't really offer the ability to auto pay out to some arbitrary banking instruction. They just don't.
That's so
and
weird.
I don't understand why. Because the rails exist, right? I'm sitting here at Prime Trust. We have access to these rails, right? What someone has to do is just build a simple interface. It's not that hard.
Dude, literally, I could do it on my phone now. I can log in and I can just say my brother, he gives me his bank sort code, which is the essentially the bank number, and his address, his bank number, account number, and I can set an amount and I can say pay that every month, and it just happens. It's like I just took that for granted and assumed you would have the same.
That's why all these payment apps are so popular here. That's why Venmo and everybody else got so big, is because that fundamental service doesn't exist in an easy way.
That's so screwed up.
And you take something like a Venmo, which is really user-friendly. You know, I can send you $20 right now, right? That's easy. But how do I send you $20 a month? There's no recurring option. Even there's no recurring. It's nuts.
Dude. So with you guys then, if you started out payments before, and then when the Bitcoin stuff came along, what did that kind of mean to you guys? Was that a big step? Was that a big risk for you?
It was. We saw it as a big kind of regulatory gray area. We saw it as bringing a lot more scrutiny to be operating in the space. Obviously, the banking industry, from what I went through, generally frowned upon being in the space. And our kind of first crypto-related customer was actually really TrueUSD. So we did this in a few different ways. We really had a 3-step process getting into crypto. The first was more around liquidity. So we had this business where you could buy private securities for people raising capital, right? And it was really frowned upon to invest in crypto. Everything had to be USD denominated. So the first thing we did was you said, okay, well, let's treat Bitcoin as a payment method, not as the end source. And if we have liquidity on the back end, if you send me a Bitcoin, I can liquidate that, post it as cash, and say, look, you invested X US dollars. You just used Bitcoin as the payment method, like you would a wire or a check or anything else. And that was kind of dipping the toe in the water. And then we said, okay, we're still not going to really do crypto, but we'll hold assets. So TrueUSD, for example, holding their collateral. Okay, we're holding US dollars. It's for a stablecoin. But all the Prime Trust is doing is holding onto the US dollars, and then, firing off our commands to mint and redeem the TrueUSD tokens, but we're not touching the tokens really. And then ultimately step 3 for us was, you know what? We're going to service this industry, right? We've kind of been testing it out, been getting in the water slowly. Let's bank exchanges. Let's bank stablecoins. Let's, PrimeCore now has custody of digital assets in hot and cold storage. We have a liquidity component, so you can buy and sell all throughout our stuff. And that powers a lot of different things, and we're aggressively adding on more and more to that.
And are you getting a lot of demand for the Bitcoin side of things?
Yeah, definitely Bitcoin. We're actually just finished adding Tether. We haven't announced it yet, but we'll have Tether liquidity now and stuff like that. But maybe 95% of the liquidity volume that we provide is all Bitcoin. It's funny how much that just massively dominates everything else.
It isn't really that funny when you think about it.
It's not, but yeah.
But who's asking for it, and how? Because I still don't fully understand who's asking for it and how are you delivering it for them.
Sure.
What is the actual service?
There's a lot of fintech platforms that want to include it, and I'll give an example of one, just probably because it's the most popular. That's not a customer of ours, but if you take a look at something like Cash App. So within Cash App, I can do peer-to-peer payments. I can buy fractional shares, right? So I can pick up $10 worth of Berkshire Hathaway, things of that nature. And I can also buy, sell, hold Bitcoin, right? So someone has to provide that infrastructure layer and those services. And we do it in the payment space. We do it in the custody space. We do it in the liquidity stuff now. We're working on fractional shares as well. And basically, the way we look at it at the end of this year, beginning of next year, you could build Cash App entirely on top of PrimeCore. And once we can accomplish that in our minds, we now have this really interesting agnostic infrastructure where it's liquidity for FX, it's liquidity for crypto, it's liquidity for public and private securities, it's custody of all these things, it's all these various payment transactions in whatever currencies you want. So from ACH, cards, wires, to SEPA payments, to Banqs, to everything else. In addition to USD, we custody GBP, we custody Euro. We're trying to really build this kind of global infrastructure that whatever type of fintech business you want to build on top of us, you can. And that's what's driving our liquidity need. It's the Revolut Paxos announcement. Revolut saying we, in our online banking app, want people to be able to buy and hold Bitcoin. Great. Someone's providing that service. In their case, Paxos. In the case of our customers, us.
Right, because I assumed something like Cash App, right until this just like very moment now when you've explained it, they just did it all themselves.
No.
I just assumed they built the infrastructure.
Nope.
They custody it. So they've just got an interface into your products and services.
Yeah, Cash App is not one of our customers, but looking at how other people,
if it was,
exactly.
Yeah.
They just tie into our infrastructure. So if you look at Chime, when you open an account on Chime, which is multi-billion-dollar neobanking app here in the U.S., you're opening an account at Bancorp. Chime doesn't have a routing number; it's Bancorp's routing number, right? What's happening is Cash App, Chime, Revolut, all these fintech companies, they're not financial institutions. They're apps. They're technology layers that are basically interfaces into these financial infrastructure companies. And there's not that many of us out there. There's Prime Trust, there's Cross River Bank, there's a few folks. And what we're just trying to do is be the one-stop shop. So right now, if you want to build Cash App, what you're really going to do is you're going to partner with someone like Prime Trust on the crypto side or Paxos. You're going to partner with, or BitGo. You're going to partner with someone like a Cross River or us or a Synapse or something like that to do your payments. Then you're going to partner with someone like Drive Wealth to do your fractional shares. That's horribly fragmented. So what we're trying to do is do those partnerships for us. Like, we'll do it for you.
And what are you setting the price and then they're marking it up their end?
Yeah. Well, basically, everybody middlemans, right? That's, at least in the US, that's finance.
Right, and if they custody it with the app, they're really custodying with you.
Yeah, exactly.
So what would happen in that scenario though? Like, I'm not saying you would be, but in a scenario, say let's say I've got my own Pete's app, right? And that's my own financial business. If there was a security issue with Prime Trust, they would assume the security issue is with myself.
Yes.
Yeah. But the issue, so you had to have developed a whole different security backbone for this crypto stuff, which is very different from your fiat rails, right?
So we try to use partners wherever possible because we can't do everything ourselves, right? And I think anybody who tries to take on that mountain is just destined for failure. So, we look at kind of the MPC technology vendors out there, whether it be Fireblocks, Curve, those guys, and we tie into them. So they're not financial institutions, but they provide the technology layers. So we're leveraging a lot of those sorts of partnerships and putting it all together in aggregate, wrapping it around our regulatory licensing and using that for insurance and other things like that. Right,
so the stack is actually multiple companies then?
Oh yeah,
pulling
definitely.
It all together.
Like even on the fiat rails, it's a whole network of banks. And on FDIC insurance, you get into bank syndicates, and there's 12,000 participating banks in the bank syndicate on the FDIC insurance. It's just this massive iceberg where you see kind of, and not just us, but anybody that's servicing the Revoluts, Chimes, Cash Apps of the world, you see this kind of like little layer sitting there above the water of, oh, I can do a payment, or I can create a wallet address. Great. And then what you don't see is everything that's happening below that waterline. And that's where 95% of the business actually is kind of sitting behind the curtain, making all of this happening and making it happen with redundancy, with reliability, with security, with the ability to cut over. Like the bank that processes our ACH transactions for USD is not the same bank that does our SEPA transactions for Euro, right? It's one API and you just change the currency in the API. But what's actually happening in the background is it's a completely different set of partners.
Right. So you're probably also therefore having to manage all the KYC AML stuff then.
That's why compliance is such a big deal for us.
Yeah. And that's stuff you just can't get away from, right?
No. As a financial institution, that's part of the deal.
because the Bitcoin people hate it, right? They
yeah.
hate KYC,
Oh, yeah.
they hate this KYC AML, but like, and how onerous is that for you guys?
There's a lot of automation that we employ.
Right.
So everything that we've always done, and our CEO has always sat around, beating frictionless into everybody's heads. Whether it's securities, whether it's banking, whether it's crypto, that's always been the play. So we leverage a lot of automation where we can. We try to ask the bare minimum that's legally required. We have a big, when we sit around and we talk about compliance, there's a big T-chart, right? What do we have to do and what do we want to do? And basically everything that's not a have to do regulatorily, then why are we doing it, right? We're just making things harder. So we want to be kind of the gold standard because we want to keep up, all of our regulatory relationships. We want to make sure we're minimizing fraud. We have a massive data science team on the back end that's really looking at a lot of data and that can do good risk scoring and things of that nature. But I'm not going to ask you for 12 different forms of government ID if I don't have to, right?
Yeah. But is that regulatory stuff, is it getting worse? Like, do you see it getting worse? Because that's a thing that a lot of Bitcoin people worry about.
I don't think that I would ever answer a question that says that government overreach is not as bad. I think it always gets worse every year, just with my own personal political opinions and backgrounds and things like that. I think, and any reach is overreach. But to be honest, it's been fairly stable. We don't see a lot of requirements going up. We don't see more and more collateral being required, at least for now. It's always subject to change, but I'm optimistic.
Yeah. All right, listen, before we finish, I do want to switch up. Well, actually, a couple of questions first. Like, you obviously added Bitcoin, you see it growing, but just so people understand, how important is Bitcoin becoming? Like, within your business?
In the business?
No, within your business. Like, what kind of indication are you getting of market interest from the interest you're seeing within your business?
The crypto-specific customers that we service in aggregate, we see payment volumes increasing total between 20 to 80% month over month.
Whoa, yeah. Dude, what?
Yeah.
Wow.
People are really getting into it. The liquidity that we're providing, everything's growing massively month over month. And part of that is new customers, always, right? New people switching to our infrastructure from BitGo, from Paxos, from these other folks. Maybe I shouldn't be naming them. I don't really know. But, we definitely see a lot of that. But then we also see basically every customer that we have in the crypto space growing month over month consistently as well. So you put those two things together and just crypto's taking off.
Wow. But you think, it's primarily Bitcoin, right?
It's primarily Bitcoin. Yeah. I think if, we're definitely not stripping it down to just one token, right? That defeats my entire personal libertarian viewpoints of enabling whatever you want to buy and whatever you want to transact in and not picking for you. But if we had to, Bitcoin's by far the majority of our transaction volume, whether it's some of the custody stuff that we do like BitGo or some of the other things, it's Bitcoin.
All right. Well, listen, the last subject I can't leave without talking to you about, because we're like 3 weeks away from an election, and you might not want to talk about it, but I always find it interesting to talk to libertarians about it, because I find there's a couple of types of libertarians. There's those who just have no interest in politics at all, but there are libertarians who feel like, no, you've got to work within the political sphere to try and change things. So there is a Libertarian Party, which itself, in some ways, is like a contradiction itself. But I understand it. Where are you on that spectrum? And how do you feel about this upcoming election, or do you not give a fuck?
It's hard for me to give a fuck, to be honest with you, Peter. I don't know why. And the thing that I do not understand about politics, and I'm sure if you sit there and you think about it for long enough, it's something about the incentive systems or things like that. But I feel like every time we have an election, I'm choosing from who is the least moronic of two complete morons. That's what I feel like I'm always choosing between. And I don't understand.
Even more so this time.
And I don't understand why, the U.S. or really any other country that has a strong population, why are you always trying to figure out who's less of a moron? Why are you trying to figure out who's actually positive for things? And speaking in the crypto space, I know Brock Pierce is running for president. of the United
Yes.
States, which is very exciting. I love Brock, but I don't think he has a chance in hell. But I'm excited that someone's at least doing something. But between kind of the two main candidates, I don't really plan on voting this year. I haven't really voted recently, and I don't really plan to because honestly, I don't fucking care. I'm gonna buy my Bitcoin, find a nice island, and that'll be the rest of my.
That's your vote, is it?
Yeah, exactly. That's how things will
Bitcoin
end
is your
eventually.
vote out. Well, that's a lot of people are saying I vote out with Bitcoin. I didn't vote in the last UK election, and I think what it is that I'd always voted, and I tended to vote for a party, and traditionally I've voted Conservative. But this election, a bit older and a bit wiser, I was like, oh, who are the candidates? I was like, and it was similar. It's like, who's the worst of the two morons? We had an arguable Marxist and a posh toff, and neither were a good option. I was like, I'm just not going to fucking vote. And I know, like, some people say, democracy is is the best option we have. I can't remember what Churchill's quote was, but what is it? The best. It's the terrible system, but it's the best we have. And other people are saying if you don't vote, you're not like you don't have a right to speak. But I just felt so disenfranchised with it. Just the whole process. And I guess that's what you're feeling.
I feel like I can't vote for one in good conscience. I guess the reason I feel that way is because I think some people view it as voting for one means actively not voting for the other. For me, voting for one means endorsing that person. I can tell you I'm not endorsing any of the two people. Like, I can't do it.
Oh, that's fair enough, man. Well, listen, look, Kevin, it's great to talk to you. Really appreciate you explaining all this like rail stuff to me. A lot of it I wasn't aware of. So, what? Just for people listening, like, what kind of person should be looking at your business? Who do you want to get in touch, and how do they get hold of you guys?
For us, it's mostly people that are looking to build fintech apps, and right now the focus is mainly blockchain. So it's exchanges that need payment rails. It's folks like Swan. They're getting some hype now in the crypto space. They're currently using Prime Trust liquidity for their Bitcoin. Nice. People building on ramps, people building exchanges, people who want to add liquidity to their existing things, right? So if you've got a great wallet service or something like that, it's great for holding the crypto, but why would somebody then go buy on Binance or someplace else and go transfer to you? Why can't they just buy right in your app, right? We can enable a lot of those sorts of things. Those are probably the most interesting folks. We've got some case studies kind of up on primetrust.com that give folks some idea of what they can build on top of our infrastructure. But we're always around. We've got a few folks reaching out to people, and there's contact info on the website. There's, I think, info at primetrust.com or whatever it is. But we try to be pretty easy to get a hold of.
All right, man. Well, listen, look, Kevin, it's great to meet you. Hopefully, at some point when the planes are flying, we can go hang out in Nevada somewhere, grab a beer, and maybe grab a steak, and enjoy the shit show early November. I'm sure you'll be watching it like entertainment.
Yeah, definitely. Seriously, though, if you're ever out here, let me know. Feel free to swing by. We're happy to host you and have some drinks, do some other activities, and enjoy Nevada. Yeah,
man. All right. Well, take care, buddy. And if you're ever this way, if you're ever in London, I'll go and show you all the empty shops that we can't go in at the moment. And I do know a good steak place. But listen, look, all the best, Kevin. You take care, and you reach out to me if you ever need anything.
Sounds good. Thanks, Peter.
All right. What did you think of that one? Now, I know you all saw the PayPal news because it was debated so much on Twitter, and not everyone thinks it's a good thing, but I do think it's an interesting part of the Bitcoin movement at the moment, and certainly something that's worth discussing. So it's great to get Kevin on. Now, there are a wide range of companies in the space supporting Bitcoin, all from very different angles. You've got people like Cash App who allow you to buy Bitcoin, and then self-custody, which is more aligned with what we expect for Bitcoin, and then you have the apps that give you exposure to it. I'll be interested to see the way PayPal are doing it. It seems a little bit different, but maybe for some people that's better. I know some people won't like it. Now, I do think this is an area that is moving quickly, and over the next few years, I'm sure we're going to see a lot more companies jumping in and getting involved in Bitcoin. So having some of this background for Kevin has been really useful. So I hope you like this one. As I said, if you've got any questions, you can reach out to me. My email address is hello@whatbitcoindid.com. And like I say, I reply to everyone. I write the emails myself, so do feel free to reach out to me. And look, if you want to support the show, I've been asking every week, just a review on iTunes. Right now, that really, really helps the show. It helps with the listing. So it takes about 2 minutes, and I've been seeing them come in, so thank you so much. I've seen a couple of shitty ones, so yeah, no thanks to you. But generally speaking, they've all been really positive. So if you want to do that as a 2-minute job, and I really, really do appreciate it. Outside of that, please do go and check out my other show, Defiance is smashing it right now. The show numbers the show numbers for this month, actually, they're ahead of what Bitcoin did as an average per show. We got the final part of my Ghislaine Maxwell series next week, and also we got the first part of my new series, which kind of feels like it's about Donald Trump, and it is, but it isn't. It's about divisiveness. It's about finding truth and objective fact finding in news. It's kind of a complicated story, but also a simple story, I think. Anyway, that starts next week, so go and check out the trailer. That's all at defiance.news. It's my birthday this weekend, and I'm gonna have a pizza and eat loads of chocolate. So think of me while you're out there celebrating Halloween. Love you all. Thanks for all the support you give the show, and I will see you all next week.